This special person we have speaking today, there's a little intro here. He went to prom by himself and kissed his first girl at the age of 20. When he was in college studying to be an aerospace engineer, rocket scientist. He's been active in the community for over 9 years, after being rejected by eHarmony and every girl on the speed dating roster, when he started sarging 4 to 6 nights a week in Hollywood, utilizing every technique, strategy he could find, and then hitting every kind of embarrassing, humiliating lows and exhilarating, amazing highs. He started an indie PUA community after a Chinese-Canadian mother called him up and hired him for a one-on-one with her son, who had been harassed by neo-Nazis. And upon returning from the States, or to the States, he made his first official splash by throwing the first ever 30-man boot camp for free. He's been on Nightline, NBC, ABC, the front covers of magazines, and now regularly teaches an Ivy League at Ivy League universities like Harvard, Yale, Wharton, University of Chicago, and Northeastern, just to name a few. And just like he has helped Asian dudes find the bodacious blondes, he's helped white guys like me with yellow fever find petite exotics to love me long time. He founded the first multicultural indie pickup community. He is JT Tran, the Asian Playboy, founder of ABCs of Attraction. Give him a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. So, just to give you a little caveat, this is not going to be your... Got that?
Yeah.
Alright, just a caveat. This is not going to be your normal kind of PUA seminar. I teach in a very different kind of quote-unquote system. It has ranged from like hardcore pickup when I used to starting out, was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a hand job on the dance floor, to a more kind of holistic system, simply because it's been dictated by my growth as a person, and just a lot of our students aren't really looking to have those kind of pickup experiences. Most guys are looking to get girlfriends. Who here considers themselves like a hardcore pickup artist? Any kind of raise your hands? Just one guy? Okay. Who here just wants to get like a couple girls, maybe a girlfriend? Yeah, only like 3. What about the rest of you guys? What do you guys consider yourselves? Like asexual? What? What's going on here? Anyways, so again, just to let you know that this isn't going to be something where I'm going to talk a lot about kind of tactics and gimmicks and things like that. If you want to talk about that, we can say that for the Q&A. Like I said, I've been at this for like 9 years. I've done a lot of the crazy stuff. I tried peacocking, and I've tried like super direct. I've tried a lot of different strategies, and for the here and now, we tend to go for a more well-balanced system, so to speak. And I'm going to quickly share a little video in case you guys don't really know who I am. Is everybody somewhat familiar with me? Or anybody just kind of just showed up just to show up? Okay. So I just showed this video, it just kind of gives a little quick brief on what I do.
You're buff, you're handsome, you've got style. Why are you here?
I want to just break out of my Asian circle. My friends aren't as willing to go out to the mixed clubs because they're just more Asian-centered. I like to taste the rainbow,
because it really doesn't feel like a boot camp. It just feels like a PE class, like a fun class, except instead of exercising at the gym or lifting weights or running track, you're just running towards girls and talking to them, and that's the exercise, but it's fun.
Very beneficial to me in many ways.
I was really nervous at first, but my coach was really awesome.
I should have put me in there instead.
I took a few back to the table and had a great time.
I'd say a good majority of the guys aren't looking for a gazillion one-night stands, trying to find a whole bunch of club girls with, like, butterfly tattoos. Most of the guys just want to find a nice girl.
song. It's very kind of upbeat. So again, this is not your typical kind of PUA presentation. Some of the things I've already talked about, race, as well as your normal sort of pickup stuff, is not something that's really covered in the community. Notice here, I think we have only 2 Caucasians guys here, and this is kind of, this is kind of who I teach. We get like maybe 20% who are white, and the rest are Asian, Latin, and occasional African American. And so I take a more multicultural aspect to it, which is not really addressed.
It says the card's full.
Are you really?
I'm
Okay.
not even joking.
All right, that's fine.
Do you want to just turn it off?
Yeah.
Alright.
Where was I?
Multicultural.
Yeah, multicultural aspect to it, which isn't really covered by the community. And that's one of the things, like the community has a lot of myths to it, a lot of truths to it, but also a lot of myths, and I'll talk about that. So what I'm talking about is like negative stereotypes that we face. And these stereotypes exist both for Asians, but as well as other minorities, and just like anyone else. Anyone who is not classically good looking, right? If you're like short, or if you're like really tall, or maybe you're fat, or maybe you're skinny, or maybe you're balding, or something like that. There are certain stereotypes that exist, and these are based off of what is called heuristic thinking. These kind of mental shortcuts that people make about you based off of incomplete information. Let's talk about negative stereotypes, maybe some role models, understanding these stereotypes, why they exist, and what you can do about it. So how does this apply to pickup? You know, a lot of guys, they say like, well, I don't see race as an issue. I don't see these stereotypes as an issue. And if that's true for you, then by all means, completely tune me out. This probably isn't for you. But for a lot of my students who are short, or who are from a different country, and who can barely speak English, there are certain barriers that they have to learn to deal with. But again, a lot of things that I have found that's easier to teach are techniques versus inner game. A lot of my students have these limiting beliefs that are brought upon society, media conditioning, and that's exhausting. And, you know, I enjoy breaking those beliefs down, but it is very exhausting to fix, as opposed to techniques, maybe your fashion, maybe your passive value. That's really easy to learn and to fix. Like conversational ability, the ability to improvise, the ability to change your tonality, that's easy. It really is. You don't even have to take a boot camp for that. You could just practice and practice and practice, right? But there are certain aspects where, you know, whatever limiting beliefs that you have, it's very difficult to get through. I know I used to have them, right? You know, I lost my virginity at the age of 20, so for the longest time I thought girls didn't like me. Maybe I was too short. Maybe I was like, you know, because I was Asian or whatnot. And I had all these kind of belief systems, and it took a long time to replace them. What I call like self-expanding beliefs. You know, kind of think about what are some limiting beliefs that you have. Whether it's you're short, you're too chubby, or you know, you're too tall. What kind of limiting belief that you have, and then try to replace it with a self-expanding belief, like 2 of them, right? I remember one student, he like had been holding this girl's hand and got her number, and apparently he held it for like 5 minutes, and then she, you know, released his hand, and then later on I'm like, yeah, you know, you were holding her hand, you got her phone number, things, that's great. It's like, nah, she let go of my hand, she doesn't like me. Right? It's like, really? I mean, it's that kind of like reverse belief system that makes a person really uncalibrated. And that's something that takes a long time to replace. And not just any kind of one seminar or one boot camp is going to be able to fix that. It's a lifetime. Right? If you've lived a lifetime of these damaging beliefs, it takes a while to fix. Again, what happens for a lot of us Asians or who are overseas is that there's heavy societal conditioning. All right? There's a lot of outside media influences, a lot of kind of stereotypes that exist about us. There's male ASD. There's a lot of kind of conservativeness in Asian culture. And then there's a lot of kind of A-mogging. Now, again, you know, when I teach A-mogging in my boot camps, it's not for us to go out there and cockblock another dude, even though that's sometimes what we'll do, right? It's, you know, we teach it simply because when you're a small guy like me and you're a very attractive girl, you're going to get AMOG'd. It's the name of the game, all right? There are an infinite supply of desperate, horny men and a finite supply of beautiful women. The only reason why you wouldn't get AMOG'd is if you're like tall and like intimidating, or your girl isn't worth it. Yes?
Let's just pretend for a second that people don't know what AMOGing means.
Okay, AMOGing. Alpha male of the other group. It's the act, when you use it as a verb, it's the act of going out of your way to cock block some guy in order to steal his girl. Or it can also be used in the defensive nature, where like some guy comes into your set with the intent to steal your girl. Okay? If you have questions about some of the terminology, I'll use like both psychology as well as like pickup terms. Just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll clarify it for you. So what is race? Does race really have to do anything with dating? Okay, I know a lot of guys will be like, oh, if you have enough game, you know, enough game will solve that, right? Just intergame that shit. Like, you could go to a Ku Klux Klan rally and hit out the blonde girl with a white pointy hat. Intergame that shit. No, I mean, it doesn't work like that. This is also one of the reasons why I tell my guys to don't bother with online dating. I mean, if you have a profile, sure, put it up. It's like passive income. It's always going to be there. But here in this little statistic from OkCupid, this is the response rate that Asian guys get from girls. You notice it's below average for other Asian girls. You guys notice that? Our response rate from other Asian girls is below the average of what it should be. I'm not making this up. And there are other statistics in Freakonomics. They show that an unattractive man had to earn $150,000 to get the same response rate as an attractive guy. If you're a Hispanic, about 77 grand. If you're a black male, about 154 grand. If you're an Asian male, $247,000. That's a $250,000, okay? You know what a $250,000 can buy you? A Rolls Royce. If I had a Rolls Royce, yes, I'd be getting girls. So what plays into these things that make it, or I won't say just like incredibly difficult, but there's a little bit of friction there. There's a little bit of kind of like, who here is an engineer or in science, the coefficient of friction, right? I don't have like all my attraction because there's that little bit that gets lost because of whatever prejudice or stereotypes exist. Racialized stereotypes that, actually I should say asexual, that Asian men are asexual and undesirable. Internalized racism, the fact that we grow up with these kind of negative belief systems and then we start believing in it ourselves. And then just basically a more conservative sex standard. So these things exist, not just in colleges. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. But this was at Duke University, and they had a kegger party where everyone dressed up in yellow face and put on like accented, like slanty eyes and stuff like that. It's within our friends, our social circles. One of the requested topic is like, how do I as an Asian guy? It was on my Facebook. Who's on my Facebook? One of the requested topics, yes, you are. One of the requested topics was like, how do I, come back to when one of my friends inadvertently makes racist jokes at my expense? And I really hadn't thought about that, right? It happens, and I had never really thought of like how to put it in words, because you either deal with it or you kind of dismiss it. One of the things I used in pickup, let me give you a pickup quick tactic that I used was, who here has been asked, oh, where are you from? You've been asked that? Oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Texas, bitch. Right? But really what they mean is like, no, like, where are your parents from? Like, Vietnam, fine. So what I started doing is like, I'd go to like a white girl and I'd be talking to her. And I'd do my BT tactic like, hey, I'm so glad you don't have CRD. And she's like, what's CRD? Caucasian rhythm disorder, right? No laughs on that one? That's like total crowd pleaser. God, tough crowd. And then what I started doing with these girls is like, oh, you have a curious accent. Where are you from? And it doesn't matter if she didn't have an accent or not. It was just a way to kind of like transition from the opener into something else, into her background. And she'd be like, oh, I'm from like the Midwest. No. I mean, where are you from? Where are your parents from? like, oh, like I'm part French, part German. I'm like, oh, you know what? I've been to France and Germany, and let me tell you, I really love your country. And that way I can, explore a little bit more detail about her background. And again, a quick and easy transition from the opener into kind of like storytelling. But it's also within ourselves, okay? Here, I think there's all these kind of protests, like, why, aren't certain groups included? Here, during like the Chinese New Year, the Vietnamese New Year, we were excluding another group of themselves. In this case, it was like the Gay Vietnamese Alliance. And just like we don't, we hate the fact that sometimes we might be excluded from the national conversation, that means that we shouldn't do that to others as well. I mean, just, because the mainstream slights us doesn't mean that we should slight other people. So forget about statistics and broad social issues. What do women really say about Asian men? Okay, what do women really say about Asian men? So what I did, I sent a couple of my guys out to like UCLA and USC and approached them and asked them. And what I did was like I had my non-Asian trainer ask the girls, and my Asian trainer ask the Asian guys. And here, it is kind of a little bit more honest truth. But again, some of it's funny, some of it may be upsetting because we're always talking about stereotypes. Let's just watch this video real quick.
What are some stereotypes you've heard of Asian guys?
Just through like the small penises, I don't know, like not being aggressive, stuff like that.
What are some stereotypes that you get as an Asian guy?
I can study. I'm good at math.
And what are some stereotypes do you have with Asian males?
StarCraft.
Okay.
Dyeing their hair. They always have nice shoes. With them, it's kind of 50-50 whether or not they smoke cigarettes.
It's like that, they smoke a lot.
More quiet and more reserved. I mean, I feel like everyone's heard the penis one.
You feel like bad type of thing? I'm just giving you stereotypes. Just small penis, not about driving.
Yeah, small dick, just a ball. Shorter than other ethnicities. What about
Martial arts.
And what are some stereotypes you have about Asian males?
The only one I can really think of is bad driving, probably.
Oh, thank you.
It's also a stereotype that they don't speak English, which I don't think is fair. I will say that. No, it's the first language. Like you commonly hear Asians on the bus speaking not English, and so people think that that they don't like speaking English, and therefore they would chat me up at the bar because I wasn't speaking English.
Potentially worse drivers.
Worse drivers on both bikes and cars.
Bad drivers.
Small dick. I think they are silent, shy.
Smart. Bad drivers.
Good at math, good at homework, good at school.
Good at school.
Short.
more feminine? Not quite social?
I like Asian food.
But what do you think is like the actual #1 stereotype that women have of Asian men? This is curious in the fact that I didn't expect this. I just noticed this kind of continuing pattern when I was like talking to my girlfriends. I'm like, oh, you know, what do you think about Asians? And it ended up being like I was their first Asian guy. So they would tell me like what they thought before me. Tell me, what do you think is the #1 stereotype?
I think it's they think we're shy and we're not as outgoing.
I know the answer because I
You know the answer. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Like I hear like from guys the small penis stereotype a lot. But here's the thing. Like yeah, I think some of the girls hear that, but it's mostly a concern from other guys. I hear like the small penis stereotype more from guys than I do from the girls. So I don't know what it is about penises and like everybody else's fascination with it. So the actual answer surprised me. And the thing is, like, it's actually very similar to what I see with a lot of guys who are still kind of running what I call like pickup version 1.0. This is like very back in the day when it was like around 2002, 2004, with the very classic indirects. Who here has been in the community since like 2004? Wow, old school, baby, old school.
Are you talking about like back in the construction thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Jeff Ross? Or?
Well, I mean, that predates me. I got in January of 2004 when I took my first mystery boot camp. And that was like when it was like the heyday, when you were actual field application, like practical experience as opposed to kind of theoretical keyboard jockeying. And my mystery boot camp was, wait for it, $600. Inflation, baby. What is it now, like 10,000 or something like that?
Was the mystery himself?
Yeah, where was that? Yeah, Project Hollywood and everything. So I'll give you the answer. Like I said, like all my girlfriends that have told me in a little bit. So we're talking about like some serious subjects, and probably I said like, why am I being so depressing? Why am I being so serious? Well, let me tell you about one of the worst nights of my life, and there have been many. There have been a lot of embarrassing and humiliating moments, and I'm okay with telling you this. Right? Here has been, you don't have to tell me the event, but here has been embarrassed going out. Here, had, you just like wanted to go home and cry. Here has gone home and cried. Okay, I have. So this is like the worst moment of my life. One of the worst nights. I was out, and this is like 2004, late 2004. I've been out in the game about like 6 months, and I'm going out 4 to 6 nights, holding down an engineering job. Okay, 4 to 6 nights. And I live in Hermosa Beach, and I'm spending like 45 minutes driving up to Hollywood, charging, and then coming back down. All right? And so on one of these nights, I get with my friends who live in the same apartment complex as me. And I'm gonna like, yeah, I'm gonna show off my pickup skills, right? I'm gonna show them I'm studly, I can talk to girls. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pua now. I'm a pua. And, we go to this, I forget what it's called. Anybody live in that area? Hermosa Beach?
Used to.
It's that, what is it called? It was on Pier Avenue. It's like that big steakhouse that turns into a club. I don't know if it's still there.
It's called American Jerky now.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a big place, and you can go there, you can eat, and you have steaks, and then it turns into this kind of this bar / club. So go with my friends, and we eat, and then I go, after everyone's done, I go to the bar and grab a beer, and off the distance, I see like 5 girls. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show all my friends what I can do now. I'm not that shy, nerdy engineering kid anymore. Okay, I've got confidence, I've got game, I've got big balls, right? Like big balls. And I started walking over there because it's 4 Asian girls, and from the back, this just gorgeous platinum blonde, like just skinny and svelte. It's just like, this is nice. Like just from the back, you can tell she's gorgeous. And this blonde is with 4 Asian girls, which means that she's got Asian friends, right? So she'll probably talk to an Asian guy. That's kind of my thinking, and it seems pretty logical, don't you? It seems like it would work out. So I go up to these 5 girls, and I tap the girl on the shoulder. I'm like smiling. I was like, "Hi," and then before I can finish what I'm about to say, she turns around, and this gorgeous platinum girl, alright, has blue eyes and is Asian. Alright? Now there are a lot of certainties in pickup. Right? There's no such thing as 100%. But I can pretty much say, if it's a Asian girl who's platinum blonde and blue eyed, it's not going to work out if you're Asian. It's just not going to work out because she's looking for a certain type of guy, and it's not me. So the first words out of her mouth, she turns around, she puts out her hand in my face and says, "No. We don't talk to Asians. Go away." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" They're like, "You're all Asian." Like, "No, we don't like Asians. Go away." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, really? Like, wow, okay. So, like, you know, a little bit flummoxed, obviously. You know, it's one thing to be rejected by a girl. It's another thing to be rejected by your race. I'm like, okay. So I have my beer, I'm trying to cool down, just trying to kind of collect my thoughts. I'm like, whoosh, just trying to calm down. Finish my beer, I get off in the distance, I see this cute Latina, you know, yeah, give her like a shout, she's cute, she's pretty. I'm like, okay, it's cool, you know, I'm not gonna let this throw me off, just kind of like, put the, you know, the dirt off. Go, I approach her, I talk to her, things are good, you know, we're having a really good conversation. And, you know, we start keynoting and things are like progressing and now we're like holding hands. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of nice. You ever hear that warm tingling sensation up your spine when you're holding hands with a pretty girl? Like, ooh, this is nice. So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to show my friends what's up, right? Like, this is JT, all right? This is Asian Justin Timberlake, baby. Yeah, this girl, all my friends are going to be impressed. So I'm like walking up to my friends and with this girl. And I was like, hey guys, you know, let me introduce you to so-and-so. So I introduce her around, and if I could borrow Nate for a second.
Woo!
So,
volunteer girl.
So, in every social circle, I think everybody has a friend like this, okay? Whether it's your close-knit circle, or maybe it's probably more like your extended social circle, there's the douchebag. He's like douche Vader. He's like the douche lord of douchiness. And so, Nate here, my buddy, right? You know, this guy who is dating one of my friends, right? He's in my social circle, but we're not like besties or anything like that. And he's a little bit drunk. And as I'm introducing her to him, this is literally what he does. Okay? He goes like, hey, it's like, why are you with him? You know Asians have small dicks, right? They have the smallest dicks. Like that. Again, it's like, I don't know why other men are concerned about my penis, but like more men are concerned about Asian penises than women are. Okay? Thank you. So obviously at that point, I've been like rejected by a girl because of not who I am, not because of my game, but simply because of my race. Wouldn't matter how much game I had, what she wanted to accept it. And then I get racist cock-blocked by someone in my own social circle. And I went home and I cried. It was like, I couldn't recollect myself after that. Okay? You get some really bad nights, and then you get some really good nights. And that was like the moment I kind of learned that both the PUA community, as well as like the Asian community, did not have a solution for this. The PUA community says, just intergame that. And, you know, whatever. It's like, no, there's no amount of game that's going to fix that. Asian American community is more like, oh, let's talk about it. Let's go from our high ivory tower and just deconstruct stereotypes. I mean, there's no real solution. And so that's what I discovered in, like, you know, over time, how I've learned how to deal with it. So the reason I'm telling you this is that I'm going to make a prediction, okay? As your pickup artist guru, as your dating coach, as your lifestyle coach, whatever you want to call me, I'm going to make a prediction. And that prediction, as you guys go out and socialize and meet women, that prediction, I guarantee this. Bad shit's going to happen to you. Okay? You are going to get rejected. You know, bad stuff is going to happen. And now you're like, JT, but you're a life coach. You're a dating coach. You're a positivity coach. So let me give you then a positive message, which is, I am very, very positive, absolutely positive, bad shit's going to happen to you. So what makes up the character of a man? What makes up the character of a man? To me, it's not necessarily how many notches that you have on your bedpost. Not necessarily how many wins that you have. Okay? Or how many women that you sleep with. That's all fine and great. I mean, it certainly gives you a well-rounded perspective when you sleep with a lot of women and you've been in enough relationships to know where you're at. Right? But to me, the character of a man is what happens. What do you do when you get knocked down? What do you do when you get knocked down? Because, you know, when I went home and I cried and, like, no one had a solution for me. No one had anything that would make it better. You know what I did the next night? I went out again. Okay? I went out to Hollywood, and I started. And it took a while, but then I had my first one-night stand. Then I had another one. And then like it snowballed, but also, you know, with my positive results, but also like I would also still like plateau, or I'd hit bottom again, and I would go, you know, go back up. And that's progress. You know, it's what you do when bad shit happens to you that counts. So, what is the first thing that people notice about you when you walked into your room? What do you think?
Race.
Oh. Race. And that's just not me, it's like psychologists. It's the first thing that people notice about you. Then it's like your gender, then it's your face, and then it's like your body language, and you know, a cascading effect. But race is the first thing that people notice about you. And you can't control the first three things. So, let me ask you a question. In 2012, who were the biggest role models, the biggest names for Asian men? 2012, last year. Jeremy Lin. True. Who else?
Jackie Chan. He's always there, right? Every year.
Bigger. These two men were the most Googled name and the most YouTube name in all of history. Psy. Jeremy Lin was the most Googled person on earth. And Psy was the most YouTubed person on earth. Last year, the two most famous people were Asian guys. And they're like on very different spectrums. Very different spectrums. So who are you gonna be? Like when I was growing up, the only thing I could be was like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan. That was like the only thing on TV for me, right? I couldn't even be the Karate Kid because the Karate Kid is like Italian. I had to be like Jet Li or Jackie Chan or something like that. At least nowadays I can be like an Ivy League NBA player or a Korean rapper. What were you guys dressed as for Halloween?
Samurai.
Samurai? Okay. Cool.
Lieutenant Dangle.
A what?
Lieutenant Dangle.
Lieutenant Dangle.
111.
Did you get the outfit like down head to toe perfect?
I had to get it fitted.
That is impressive.
So who would you rather be? Jeremy Lin or Psy?
Jeremy Lin.
Jeremy Lin?
Oh, definitely so.
Definitely Psy. Here's an interesting thing, real quick. I was Psy. Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. Like when I go out, I get recognized pretty much every night I go out. It's pretty much guaranteed in like any city, unless it's like a really small town. But like New York, Vegas, I would get recognized. And unfortunately, only guys recognize me. No girls recognize me. It just kind of defeats the purpose of being famous, right? But when I was dressed as like Psy, girls were stopping me. Now I've done peacocking, right, before, and it's great, and you know, it's got like its pluses and minuses to it. But when I was a Psy, even when I was peacocking, I had never been stopped by so many girls who were like taking pictures for me and like everything like that. It's just an interesting aside. I thought it was like fascinating. You laugh, but here's the thing. Psy makes more now than Justin Bieber. Okay, just recently Psy did one concert, sang a song, dropped his mic, and made $1 million. That's it, $1 million. You know how much like Justin would have to work? He'd have to fill out a concert to make $1 million. So just a little perspective of who you'd rather be. Now there are multiple levels of communication and perception. And what makes one person more successful than the other? And I'm going to use these kind of Asian role models as a way to kind of decipher this. So what's the difference? You got Jeremy Lin, you got Yao Ming. Now Yao Ming was very popular, but he is nowhere near as popular as Jeremy Lin. Not even close. What do you think is the difference? Why was his popularity so much like stratospheric compared to Yao Ming? They're in the same field of work. What?
Okay, so Jeremy Lin is like a role model for an average Asian guy, or like American Asian guy, where you can have the potential of joining the league without being 7 foot tall.
Yes. About like a freakish genetic gift.
Don't have
Right.
to be freak.
What else? That's definitely one aspect. What else?
Facial hair.
Facial. Okay.
Dude was a fob.
He was straight.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Could be. What else? Well, there's this. Alright? And then there's this. One of the things, especially those who are like in any kind of Asian American kind of classes, the way they just construct like Jeremy Lin experience is the fact that, and what's unique about him was the fact that he has what they call like swag. Right? Yao Ming, as much as he was popular, did not have like that Jeremy Lin swag. And part of that is Jeremy Lin was way more expressive. Well, Yao Ming is this. You guys get it? He's more expressive. Whether he's in like defeat or being a winner, he'd be shouting, he'd be yelling, he'd be laughing. When he made that 1 3-point shot in, like against the Toronto Raptors, he's like jumping up and down. All right, he's got that swag. He wants to be a winner. When you have that age of swagger, men want to be you and women want to be with you. And there's a lot of things from a practical point of view that it helps. You get better jobs when you make solid eye contact, when you don't smile, and you fidget too much. Like, hiring managers will judge you based off of like your handshake, based off your body language, based on whether or not you make eye contact or smile. Like, I don't know him personally, but the way that people describe him is that he is confident, but without being too arrogant. Well, Yao Ming, he's got that freakish height, but he's like really reserved, and he's got that perpetual foreignness to him. Again, here's just some interesting statistics. Bad posture, when your handshake is too weak, crossing your arms over your chest, I see that a lot here. Playing with your hair, using too many hand gestures. I know like whenever someone shakes my hand, they don't think it, but like, I'm judging you on your handshake. Now you can get the Rolls Royce, right? No. So what do I know about women, and what do I know about swagger? Women, pretty much nothing. I'm going to be honest, pretty much nothing. If I know on any given day, if I can decipher anything like 40% of the time from a woman, that's a good day. Right? That's a good day to me. Like, have you ever got like those text messages? You're like, fuck, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to send? Is there a book? Like, no, there's like, to me, like, all this experience, I have a lot of experience in life and in these certain circumstances. But truthfully, I've given up on trying to decipher what a woman is thinking. Because part of it is, it's pretty much pointless to try to figure it out. But wait a minute, I'm supposed to be the greatest like Asian dating coach in the world. Like, voted on like 2 continents, right? I'm supposed to be that chick whisperer. No, that's not what I do. There are no tricks or Jedi mind tricks. I wish there were. I wish there was like something I could go like, take off your panties. And I'm like, that would be amazing. I wish there was. I wouldn't even be here if there was. Right? I'd ball that shit up and sell it. But no, there isn't. There are no Jedi mind tricks. There's nothing that you can do to trick a girl. There's one big secret I can tell you guys that you can take away is that there is no secret to, there's no one tip, no one trick. Alright? Women are not stupid. They really aren't. They know what you're doing. Alright? At least on an unconscious level. They may not break it down like we do. Like, oh, okay, A1, A2. They don't break it down in that way. But they are aware of what you're trying to do. They're not stupid about it. So, I mean, excellence is an action, not an action. Excellence is a habit. Now, okay, there is actually one thing that I have learned that you can do, like 100% of the time, that is foolproof. Guaranteed, will always, always work. Oops. But I'll get to that later. I'm going to nerd out for you for a minute, okay? I need to nerd out for you. Let's talk about psychology. You ever seen like psychology? Okay. Let's talk about heuristics. And I'm really go over this like very simplistically. Heuristics is kind of like these shorthand rules that we come up with these leaps of logic based off of incomplete information. Now, one example is if I say something is cheap, if I'm selling something that is cheap, and I say something that this other product is expensive, what do you automatically assume about each product?
One's good, one's bad. Quality.
Yeah, good, bad, quality. So the cheap one we kind of think is poorly made, right? Well, the expensive one is very well crafted, okay? That's one of these kind of shortcuts that we do. Another kind of example was, I remember watching like CNN, and they did this study where they switched these two bottles of wine. One was very expensive bottle of wine, one was like $2 chuck that you could get at like Trader Joe's, and they switched the labels, okay? And so they had these people come in and like taste the wine, and the $2 chuck, or what they thought was a $2 chuck, they were like, it's okay, it's like whatever. And then they drank the expensive bottle of wine, but was in fact the $2 chuck, and they're all like, I can smell the oaky fragrance, right? They assumed because it was expensive, it was better. And that's these kind of mental shortcuts that we take as people. Now, for the most part, there's nothing wrong with it. This is how we live and how we work in society and how we get along without like doing like exhaustive research on every single decision that we have to make. But when it comes to dating, it is discriminatory, you know, unless you break that pattern of thinking. And there are certain patterns of thinking that we have for both men and women. So let me give you a female example. Look at this girl right here. Okay? What do you automatically assume about this woman?
She's really smart.
She's really smart. What kind of job does she have?
She's a doctor.
Model. And what kind of guys does she date?
Asians.
Yeah. I get a lot of different answers. People generally tell me that she only dates white guys. She likes rich men, or she, dates athletes. She doesn't date Asians. She's too pretty to date a guy like
She looks really bitchy.
She looks really bitchy.
Really bitchy.
Really bitchy. Okay.
She's from
Even though she's smiling, though, right? Okay. Again, we're kind of using heuristics. We're using these kind of mental shortcuts to make a judgment about her, based on either your experience as a person, or what you've seen on TV, what people have told you about girls like her. Her name is Brooks. She's a former Playboy model. She owns several businesses. She's in a long-term relationship with an Asian guy. She only dates Asian guys. And basically she prefers Asian guys over other types of guys. Okay. Here's a male example. You guys, I don't know if you recognize this, but this is from Details magazine, which is kind of like GQ, a little bit smaller, but it's like a national magazine. And they put out this spread, and you can't read it, but this says gay or Asian. Gay or Asian. And this is one of the kind of the thin slices that people make about Asians. It doesn't have to be Asians. It could be if you're skinny or if you're small. And there are other thin slices that people make, let's say if you're black, or you're tall, or you're balding, or you're fat. Here I'm using Asian as an example. And this is like what a lot of people will think. Not that they're conscious about their stereotypes or their prejudices, but it's what pops into their mind. So being Asian, there are positive stereotypes. We tend to be well educated, financially stable, and there are negative stereotypes. Being effeminate, possibly being gay. Here's the pickup artist, what I call version 1.0 example. This guy. I don't know if you guys know him or anything like that. I just looked up pickup artist and there he was. I'm like, oh my god. Like I said, early on, how one of the biggest stereotypes that women might have is kind of similar to the Asian stereotype, effeminate. Let me tell you a quick story. I was hanging out with Matador, and he's a friend of mine. We have been starting since back in 2004. This is before both of us went professional, before we started working with Mystery. When we were just two dudes sergeant, we're like, oh, let's go to Orange County and let's try this opener. Who lies more? That's how long we've known each other. And we were in downtown last year, and we're at this bar, and we had picked up these two girls, and we had we're sitting across from each other, and I've got one girl by me, and he's got his girl by him, and he's meeting these two other pickup artists later in the night. Talk about business, because they have their own company and whatnot. They want to talk about business. I'm like, okay, whatever. We're gonna chill here. I'm gonna talk to my girl. He's gonna talk, and then in walks these two Asian guys. Okay, and it's very obvious that they're pickup artists too. And so Matador is like, hey, what's up? Introduces us, and like they go off in the corner, and they got that laptop, and they're doing stuff. And my girl turns to me. Okay, and I shit you not, this is what she said. They're queer, aren't they? Alright? I mean, guys, you know, it's more than just being Asian. It is, I don't know if any of you guys still run a lot of the kind of the old school pickup stuff. It was great for experimenting, but like in college, you leave it in college with experimenting in the real world. It is definitely something that I see a lot of the old school guys still practice, and the fact that they're giving off a more kind of effeminate energy than dominant. And this is a real tragedy when it comes to like Asian guys or like a small guy. Because you're reinforcing her own thin slice or stereotype of you. Those of you who don't know what thin slice, that came from Malcolm Gladwell, Blink. You guys familiar with that? It's a good book. It's basically like we thin slice when we make kind of these instant judgments. So how do you break this heuristic pattern of thinking? Step one, be dominant. One of the biggest pieces of advice I tell my students, whether they're small or they're Asian, be dominant. Okay? Timidness kills attraction, dominance creates it. Now, realistically speaking, a lot of girls won't look at you if you're shorter. Like, you know, there'll be girls that are like, oh yeah, I'll date a guy that's shorter than me. That's the exception rather than the rule. Like, realistically speaking, that is the exception. We're not talking about that one person. We're talking about establishing a regular pattern. Okay? If you're shorter, you're going to have a tougher time. If you're lower passive value, you're going to have a lesser time. If you have an accent, you're going to have a harder time. If you have broken kind of like fobby teeth, you're going to have a harder time. Right? Unless you happen to be one of my students, or one of my fobby students. And for those of you who don't know, fobby stands for fresh off the boat. Right? And back in 2007, this is the first time I'd ever been followed by a reporter. It was like for Asian Week. And so this reporter comes out with this photographer, and they follow to boot camp, takes pictures, it's good stuff, right? And on the last, or was it the last night, we go to like Hotel Gansevoort in New York, and it's this gorgeous, just gorgeous rooftop bar. I don't think LA has anything like it. It is like this pool, and everyone's dressed like very classy, it's very elegant, people are very beautiful. And I got my, you know, all my students, and then I've got my one student who's from Singapore. Guy's like 5'0", like 5'0". He's Singapore, and he's like got the Singaporean hair, he's got the Singaporean accent, he's got like fobby Asian teeth. And apparently, when you're in Singapore, there's mandatory military service, right? You have to go into the military. So this is his last big hurrah before he goes out in the military and possibly dies in some war or something like that. So he just wants to have a lot of adventures. I grabbed my student, right, because he's the closest one. You know, I didn't even think about it. I grabbed my student because off in the distance, I see this 6-foot-tall blonde. Okay, so I turn and I accidentally grab like the shortest student I have available to me. I'm like, hey, you see her? He's like, yeah. Say, I want you to tell her she's beautiful. Say, oh, yeah, just don't tell her she's beautiful. Say, okay. And this is literally what happens. So it's like here, I mean, like, the beautiful Nate.
Am I gonna do the accent or you?
You know we have some real gurus here.
So
I'm the blonde?
Yeah, you're the blonde. So literally he's like this, okay? You're pretending like this is the height difference, right? Literally he marches over there, and then as he's marching, the photographer sees what's happening, and the photographer is curious, and he's about to do his job, he starts taking pictures and following him, and I'm like, oh fuck. And I'm like, no! Right? And he's like following, taking pictures, and this is literally what my Singaporean student does. You are fucking beautiful! And so, like, he took beautiful into an all new category, an all new level. Bless his little heart. But it worked. You open that newspaper, there he is, getting her number. Sitting down, holding her hand, getting her number. Realistically speaking, short guy, fob, broken teeth, accent. Does he have a shot? Realistically speaking, no. Like, yeah, you might have a small percentage, but those are the exceptions rather than the rule. Unless you break her perception of you. By going direct, by going dominant, he made her reevaluate him on a one-to-one basis as opposed to being dismissed as a stereotype. Step 2, be confident. It's like one of the most common pieces of advice, but also the most useless, because who the fuck knows what confidence is, right? It's like, fuck, it's like the piece of advice, be yourself. Like, if I was myself, I'd get more girls, but it doesn't work like that. So the universal language of confidence is body language. People understand body language, regardless of the continent that you're on. Whether you're North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Australia, everybody understands body language. And because I teach a lot of my students who are not born here, they're ESL, where English is a second language, it would be absolutely useless for them to do a lot of kind of the can openers. Who still does like can openers? Couple? Oh, yeah.
For rejection? I mean...
For rejection?
Objection.
Objection, okay. I remember I ran into Matt, or he was running a boot camp, and you know, it was at a Crest, back in the day when Crest was still hot. And I run into the stairwell, and he's got like 2 Japanese students. And they're like hardcore Japanese, like with like the teased hair and everything like that. And he's like, JT, I'm like having the toughest time. Like they barely speak English and they can't go through like all the gambits. Like, dude, don't. Don't. Give them the easiest opener. Like just direct. Really short, really easy. And here what I tell my students is just, you are fucking beautiful. Because it works. I know it works. Right? So again, first impressions are made within like 3 to 7 minutes. There is 3 to 7 seconds, pardon me. There is something called the 757 rule, which I just found fascinating. It's like it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression, 5 minutes to reinforce that first impression, and then the next 7 minutes to establish a listening pattern. For those of you who are curious as to whether or not, like, how long do you have to stand set for it to be solid? It'd be about like 12 minutes minimum. So there's a lot of different aspects of body language. I mean, there's a lot of also studies that say, like, what we hear, what a person hears, is like 7% spoken word, 38% your tone, 55% your body language. Others, put it like lower or higher. But pretty much universally, all studies show on some level that the majority of the communication is through subtext, is through your body language, and is not through the spoken word. So things that are parts of your body language, of your confidence, your posture, head motion, facial expressions, eye contact, gestures. Have any of you guys seen yourself running pickup? Like you actually taped yourself? Okay, a couple guys. It is the most painful, painful thing I've ever done in my life. The first time I did, I was like, holy shit, But it's a great way, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, but it's a great way to see yourself. Yeah.
Can I just pause for 1 second and switch this up?
Sure, sure.
Cool. Good.
Right. A lot of different aspects of it. And what you'll start to see is that there are certain things that you're doing that you're never aware of. Now, who here practice their body language as much as they practice their verbal game, if not more? Just a couple. And here's the interesting thing. If you know that body language is more powerful, why aren't you doing more body language exercises than you are doing verbal exercises? Something to consider. So step 3, be expressive. Be expressive. Here's the thing. Women communicate on like 5 different levels. The conversation that they're actually having with you. The conversation that is being avoided, that you're kind of skirting around. This is especially true if you're using a more indirect style game. The tone being applied to the overt communication. When I say something like, I do what I want, it can mean a lot of different things. If I just say, like, I do what I want. I do what I want. A lot of different ways you can make one sentence mean different things. The buried conversation underneath the subtext and the other person's body language. A lot of different ways to express yourself and what she is reading. So if you have certain avenues of communication that are repressed and that you're not expressing yourself, you're kind of like tying one hand behind your back. So this is kind of a meme. But one of the things I hear all the time is like, oh, Asians look all alike. And other than, as they say with stereotypes, there's always some sort of kernel of truth in it. Whether it's due to culture, or whether it's due to family, or whether it's just, people being prejudiced. We, on a lot of levels, are not taught to express ourselves, right? I don't know about you guys, but like hugging my mom was like, wasn't strictly forbidden, but it wasn't done, right? And you're especially like my stepdad, who was like in the Vietnamese police, and he got thrown into like one of those re-education camps, and like those, Vietnamese communists. Like he's kind of one of those like very repressed individuals. So being expressive, being emotional was forbidden, right? So the more expressive you are, Calvin and Hobbes, a lot of different expressions. When you express yourself in different ways in telling a story, there's a lot of information that you can convey. One of the openers I have, I don't use words. I just go like, and she's like, what? And then over she comes. Like, I've done that. You know how, who here hates loud club music? Why do you hate it?
Can't hear anybody talking.
Who the fuck cares? Just go like, and she's like, what? It's like, boom! Problem solved. Alright? There are no obstacles, only opportunities. So the more expressive you are, the more real you become to her. Okay? Again, practice. If you're trying to practice your verbal game, you should also be practicing your nonverbal game. And step 4, calibrate, calibrate, calibrate. I definitely recommend that if you have the opportunity to tape yourself, do it. Again, like I said, it's very painful, but it's very, very instructive. Like, this is why what we've done is that we're always taping our speeches. Not that we're going to necessarily put them online or anything like that, but it is a very instructive, albeit painful, lesson when we look at ourselves and like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is, the way I'm coming off. And again, it helps you calibrate because when you have a certain belief about yourself that does not match actual reality, that's called basically being uncalibrated. Now, one of the things I hear all the time is what they call chronic uniqueness. You guys ever heard of that? Chronic uniqueness is when, and I hear this from every boot camp, there's always these one guy or whatever, like, I've got this problem and it's unique to me. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like the same thing like everyone else here. You're scared of talking to girls? Guess what? Everyone else here is. There's nothing unique about that. But they think because their one problem is the biggest, it is completely unique to them. Right? They're that person's uncalibrated in his belief system. And then you have the person who's like delusional confidence. Bless them. I have this a lot with my FOBI students. And in certain regards, it's kind of better because they can get a lot of mileage out of it. They don't know that people are looking at them weird, right? It's like we send him off into the set and he just goes. He doesn't realize that he's not supposed to, to be successful. And when he is, like, yeah, okay. Right? It is a fascinating thing to see when someone is like delusionally confident. But over time, you have to recalibrate yourself. Because what starts to happen, and I see this a lot with a lot of PUAs, especially for those who stay in the community for a very long time, is that you guys become, I don't want to say you guys, but a lot of you guys who stay in the community and run a lot of different tactics, is that you become more and more uncalibrated. Even though you're getting more socially experienced, but you kind of start to push the boundaries of social acceptance. And I'm not going to name names, you can ask Nate, but it's our policy not to name names. But I remember one time we were running a boot camp and we went to the W, and it's a very loungy place. very chill. You can meet a lot of like very kind of cool people there. And you know, we've got like my assistants and like Sarah, like Heather, and then comes like this other boot camp and their instructor, and like completely freaks out my assistant, right? And you know, he comes up to me, I'm talking, we're talking shop, you know, just standard like, hey, what's up, how's business, blah blah blah. And the bouncer comes up, grabs him by the neck, and kicks him out, like, and him and all of his students, literally just grabs him while I'm in the middle of the conversation. Nate saw this. And it's like, wow, like, I go up to the bouncer, it's like, what happened? Why'd you do that? Like, I was kind of like surprised. He's like, but they were basically being kind of date rapey, okay? But yeah, not gonna name names, but you can ask Nate.
I'm gonna stop you. Oh, this thing ran out of battery.
That is? Hi, that's fine. Nate's got it. Thank you. How are we doing at time? Or what time is it anyway?
8:28.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that question that I asked, what is the #1 stereotype that women have of Asian men? The answer that actually surprised me. Well, I've got another video that you guys might enjoy. And again, set my non-Asian trainer to talk to the girls and get the actual truth about it.
Do you guys think Asian guys find you attractive?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
You? No?
I haven't had much contact with them. I don't know. I don't know. I've never spoken to an Asian guy.
Do you think
That's not
Asian
UCLA,
guys find you
too.
attractive?
I don't know. I'm not an Asian guy, so I don't know.
No, do you think Asian guys find you attractive? Like, we don't want you to be a dude.
I mean, I know, but I don't know if I don't know. Guess so.
I think Asian guys find you attractive.
Find who attractive?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Really not. Yes? Maybe.
Do you find non-Asian women attractive?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you find non-Asian women attractive?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Alright, so do you think Asian guys find you attractive?
I think Asian guys find. Sure. I have no idea. I've never asked.
Okay, why so?
They'll stare at me. Some guys do. Some guys don't. I don't know.
Sometimes, but most of them are into Asian girls, so sometimes I'm just like nothing walking by them.
Alright, do you think Asian guys find you attractive?
I have no idea.
Are you attracted to non-Asian women?
I'm attracted to all women.
Very open to dating people of other races and cultures nowadays.
Would you say you are attracted to non-Asian women?
I have no experience about it.
Do you guys think Asian guys find you attractive?
No. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so, yeah.
Or maybe they just don't vocalize it as much as
like
other men. Yeah.
Would you say you're attracted to non-Asian women?
Of course, really love whites.
Yes.
Because we're pretty. I think they prefer Asian girls.
What are some stereotypes do you have with Asian males?
Starcraft.
So in other words, like a lot of Asian guys perpetuate our own stereotypes. And, you know, I get this sometimes from some of my students, like, oh, I only want to date, you know, they're an Asian guy. And it's like, oh, I only want to date Asian women. And I get that. I get, like, that's their own kind of cultural and religious similarities. But a lot of times they say that because they've never had the option. Like, literally, they've never had the option to date outside the race because of culture, of society. Their family saying, no, I want you to marry like a Chinese, you know, so I can have a daughter-in-law. So ask yourself this, you know, are you someone who's adding to the problem by not dating like the person that you want, and not taking what you deserve? Are you being a role model? Okay. So you have to choose to make an effort to walk around, like, oh, that swagger. You want to be successful because you're Asian, not in spite of it. And that 100%, you know, trick that I mentioned earlier is basically this. Like I said, it's not a trick for women. I've given up trying to figure it out because I don't think it's that important. I don't think it's that important to try to figure out what she's thinking. You can't control what other people think, what they feel, what they do. You cannot control other people's actions. Okay, sometimes you can influence it. Yeah, sure. But you can't always control it 100% of the time. And I'm talking about this one thing that you can do, and it's 100%. And that's what you do. That's it. Like I said, earlier on, when I went home and I cried, the next day I went out again. I chose not to let that keep me down. I chose to keep on pushing forward, regardless of how crappy that made me feel. And remember Yoda from the beginning? Do or do not, there's no try. So maybe there are Jedi mind tricks. Here's the secret to being a man. It's like, don't be quiet, don't be mediocre, don't be replaceable. Kind of like that stereotypical nice guy. And this is how you can do it. Take actions, take risks, break the rules, and don't look in the rear view mirror. And what I mean by that is all the mistakes that you're going to make, and you're going to make a lot of them. You need to be making a lot of mistakes. It's that kind of like that fable. How do you make good judgments, or how do you get good experiences? By making bad judgments first. You don't know what the line is until you stepped across it. So when you make these mistakes, don't look back. Don't let those hold you down. Don't let all the kind of the humiliating or embarrassing mistakes that you've done wrong or wrongs have been done to you hold you down. And above all else, don't be a douchebag, and don't be this guy. So really quickly, who would say that they're on a budget? Not that I'm trying to say anything, but who would like they're on a budget? Okay. If you want free stuff, go here. abctheatrattractor.com/blog/free training. There's a free pickup video. It's how I close a girl in under like 5 minutes. There's an ebook, and there's like a 60-minute, I forget. So there's both an ebook and an audio. So you just go there, punch in, your name, and get some free stuff. For those of you who are in the area, I'll be speaking next week at the first Asian American Summit on Stereotypes. This is a mainstream thing. This is not a Pua thing, okay? Although you can probably go and pick up Asian girls if that's what you want. So I know Nate's like, what's the address? I'll also be later. I'll be speaking at like Rutgers and potentially Duke or Williams. Okay. And I enjoy those things because again, I no longer really give kind of PUA oriented speeches anymore in presentations because that's where I started, but it's not where I'm going. Because as much fun as it was, it definitely tended to produce a lot of kind of uncalibrated guys. And here, when I speak at these events, I want to be able to reach a broad kind of audience and hopefully open some eyes. And for those of you who are curious, we get a lot of reviews on our programs from anyone who's interested. I know Nate took one of our programs. You can ask yourself. And it is not just for Asians. We've got some tokens here. Token white guy and whatnot. And we have changed our boot camps a little bit. Yes, we've also increased our prices, but nowadays we give you a home study course. Okay, it has hours of videos as well as material, and it starts at 7 p.m. and it's just all drills, all practices. It doesn't have any of the theory, so that way you get that dry run in, and then we go on the field. And the other big thing is on Sundays, we now do day game instead of night game. Basically, a lot of people were incredibly exhausted, and as much fun as it was, people found having that kind of difference in venues and going to day game was a lot better contrast. And basically, if you sign up, we give a lot of kind of boot camp bonuses. It's about almost $600 between book, or in-field video series, or Texas Sex, and all our CDs. It's basically $600. Usually we sell, these things can be sold for $5,000 or mystery $10,000 or whatnot. And for the Casanova crew, JT and Nate, basically if you want to sign up, we'll give a 25% discount. So you talk to myself or talk to Alice. You just need to place a small kind of one-time deposits, and so you're saving $500 as well as getting $600 in bonuses. So as I like to put it to students, it's not about how much a boot camp costs. Is what does it cost if you don't take one? What kind of life opportunities that you miss out? Because I took, and I had no qualms about it, taking a boot camp in 2004 of January of Mystery. It opened my eyes. There are a lot of things that I found that didn't work in the long term because it was all verbal game. But the thing is, I started on this road. And then later on, like last year, I ran into this one guy at Saddle Ranch. Yeah, it used to be my old, like really old wingman. He's wearing kind of the same shorts. You know, he always wears shorts to the bar. And I still have the same kind of long, kind of Fabio-ish, greasy hair. And here's like 8 years later, I'm looking at this guy, he's like getting the same exact results. I'm like, wow. Like, you know, even if I had gotten professional, I was still doing a lot better because I chose to make an effort to change. I chose to do something about it, as opposed to like getting free advice. As I say, like the worst advice is always free. So I'm going to leave you the same thought that I leave my students, that I learned from one of my teachers, is how many days are in the human lifetime?
22,000.
22,000. Yeah, you actually did the math. But yeah. If you were to say like you live to be 100 years old, there's like 36,000 days, right? Just to say you're lucky not to be 100 years old. So 36,000 days. That's really not a lot of days. That's really not a lot. And the first 12,000 days of your life are kind of like the last 12,000 days of your life. And the fact that your penis doesn't work and you shit your pants. And the thing is, like, time is the most important resource. It is the most important resource that you'll never, ever get back. It's non-renewable. It's more important than money, more important than power, time. Okay? So, if there's a pretty girl at the coffee shop that you've always had your eye on to talk to, go and say hello to her because, soon enough you're going to be 50 and all that time has gone by. If you're going to make peace with the high school bully that you made your life a living hell, talk to them now. If you're going to, establish a relationship with your parents or your grandparents, you do it now. Because this 12,000 days is the best of your days. Because if you're ever going to be successful, they say if you're ever going to be a millionaire, it's when you're in your 30s. If you're going to have a lot of one-night stands and threesomes or get that beautiful girlfriend, it's now. It's not later, it's now. Okay? So there's our information, and thank you for listening. So I know I was talking about kind of like, a lot of kind of race and broader topics. I'm sure you guys want to talk about pickup now. If you guys have questions, feel free to hit me.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.
JT.
Yes. George, right?
Yes. JT, I looked at a lot of your YouTube videos, and I thought it was really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have more infield videos of you on YouTube?
No. It's we have like the one that we did in Vegas. That's a free download, and then we have like some of our day game videos, but that's in the product, but like for free. I mean, the only one is the 5-minute kiss close. That's like public.
Is there a reason why the pros never put out videos of like their infield shit?
Oh, you know what? Actually, to address both of yours, if I was the first infield insider for Mihao. So if you go back and there's a bunch of me with Mihao, if you were to go there, there's that. But I guess to answer your question, there's a lot of different reasons to it. Now, I think that a lot of guys kind of like, you're not going to say it, but like, oh, is this guy for real? Or is he pretending, right? So there's that aspect, whether or not if you actually try to videotape it, would he be for real? So there's that kind of fear. But the other thing is, and this is true of whether you're talking to like Mr. and whatnot, it's never, I guess like solid game is never as flashy as you might want it to be. Like the reason I put up the 5-minute kiss close is, most guys are like, oh, I talked to her for like 20 minutes, got her number, asked her on a date. You're like bored, right? That's not what you're really looking for. You guys, it's when it comes to like sales and marketing psychology, you have to sell the sizzle before the steak. What you're looking for, what most people are looking for, infield is like flashy gimmicks. But to me, like solid game isn't really flashy. It's just like you talk to a girl, you establish a connection, and you hook up. But you can find that, like I said, it's one of my flash game videos is online for free. So. Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, what parts of game 1.0 do you consider obsolete? Like, for example, peacocking, maybe negging, maybe canned stuff?
Peacocking definitely. Like, you can pretty much get called on it, especially if you live in a major city. Anything that was in the book, anything that was on TV. Negging, the reason we don't use it isn't because it doesn't work, it's because it requires some pretty good calibration to it. What we see a lot of times when we've tried it out with our students, or we see like other companies, it comes off as not as a nag, but just a straight up insult. And so it's more likely to backfire. All right. Now, if you can do it effectively, if you actually know how to use it, it can be very effective. Because I've done it and I've used it, and it's not something like it's a mainstay, but I know it's there. But for most people who are trying to learn it, you know, I think just being someone of value and knows how to give value is easier to learn and a more positive experience. What other aspects? Flash game. I mean, again, I know how to do it because that's
Flash.
Gosh.
5 minutes, right? Oh.
No, I mean, like even like the 5-minute video isn't that flashy. It's flashy enough to get like
Maybe
make out
magic
like
tricks,
5 minutes.
things like
Yeah,
that.
magic tricks. Like going up to set up girls and like yay, like kind of completely over the board, and you're doing crazy stuff like PUA spin and like all this kind of like really loud stuff. It works, but the problem with what we call like body temperature exhaustion. We've had friends like this where you're sitting around and you're joking, and he tells that one like really dirty story that makes your side splits. What happens afterward?
Throw.
Can't laugh.
Can't laugh anymore. There is this energy vacuum because all that body temperature got sucked up. So one of the problems with flash game, with like really high exciting kind of game, is that it's not solid. You don't really have solid interaction. You what I call become like this kind of zero calorie human being.
Jewelry.
Jewelry.
Accessories. For me. Not as peacocking, but you know, basic stuff.
You know, I think when it comes to fashion, there's a lot of different kind of guidelines to it. I think that, you know, I'll get to accessories. You should have one thing that is, I don't want to say loud, but like prominent, that people notice, whether that's a tie or hat, and everything else supports it. Okay, everything else supports it. Is not supposed to overpower it. Now, obviously, this is kind of dependent upon like your personality and what you want to present. But if you have like a loud jacket, okay, that's got crazy patterns, don't wear so much jewelry that it conflicts. Right? Now, if you have like, you can do like a lot of jewelry and then just go like a kind of a slim black leather jacket and like boots, stuff like that. Everything supports what you're trying to display. So you want to do like a necklace, wear things that support that, but don't conflict with it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You know, I mean,
more practical.
Practical application. I mean, like what do you wear?
Usually black. I mean, blue or black jeans with long sleeve, red ties or vests.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to wear a couple rings and whatnot, that's fine. You know, but the point is like if you don't put in a lot of bling because it's overpowering your other elements. Okay. I mean, you can wear like a tie clip, you can wear a hat, but the point is that the accessories don't overpower anything else. Make sense? You had a question about
Yeah. One of the things that you were saying is body language, expressiveness are more important than the verbals. So do you have any exercises that we can do on maybe a daily basis to help ourselves be more expressive?
Sure. Everybody say cookies. Cookies.
Cookies.
Cookies. Boom. Smile right there. Body language, you know, as I say, like, you want to like stand tall. You know, everybody can stand up, stretch up for a second. So imagine, you know, there's a string at the top of your spine. And by the way, the top of your spine is right here. So imagine a string that's pulling you up. like that, pulling you up to the ceiling like this. And then, you know, so you're standing tall, you're making eye contact. I had a lot of trouble with this, with eye contact when I was in high school. I'd always kind of look down, right? I was kind of like one of those kids that couldn't make eye contact. But here's the very practical, utilitarian use of eye contact. Let's say I go into a 3-set. Now that requires energy. When you go into a 3-set, you have to match their energy level. And the bigger the set, the more energy you have to bring in. Like the biggest set I ever did was like 12 girls. And like, it was like at Saddle Ranch. I opened them in the inside, brought them outside, then brought them back inside. And then I isolated my girl outside, kiss closed, number closed. Then I went home and went to sleep because I was exhausted. But for a 3-set, so you have to have good energy, but you have to kind of like hold court, as they say, and dominate it. So you can use eye contact. You can go like, blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. So what I'm doing is I'm bouncing my eye contact. Because social convention has it that he who is doing the speaking must be looked at. If you are doing the listening while someone else is speaking, social convention dictates that they look at me. But I, as a speaker, I can look around as I'm talking. I'm like, oh my, wow, did you see that girl? She's completely hot. Like, anyways, check this out. And I can like look, I can look at different people. And this is how I can maintain a group of girls. Because if I figure like one girl is starting to kind of drift off, I just like look at her and talk to her, and it forces her to come back in. Obviously, this isn't so much true if like the girls are getting drunk, and by that time, social convention just goes out the window. So anyways, solid eye contact, standing tall, throwing your shoulders back, right? Having a wide space. I call it my big ball space, right? And if you don't know what to do with your hands, you know, if you're kind of like a wild gesticulator, you're like, ooh, or if you're doing like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like with your beer, like, don't leave me, beer. Right? Then just do what we call a cowpoke. Just take your thumbs, stick it here. Really easy, okay? Because what happens if you really move your hands a lot, it comes off as nervous, that you're anxious, that you're not confident. And you find yourself doing it, just cowpoke. Now, I've had students that will still move their hands, they'll flap like a penguin. Like, okay, still, you know, defeating the purpose. So if you find yourself with that nervous energy, wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes. Because no one can see you wiggle your toes, right? No one can see you wiggle your toes and push all that nervous energy. And if you become an expert like me, then you can start doing Kegel exercises. I'm doing them right now. All right, that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Just to give everyone an idea, when you first started out, after like your first mystery thing, how many hours a week did you spend absorbing material, reading up, and how many approaches a day did you do? For how long before you started seeing results? Because most people go into this just expecting all kinds of random shit. When it doesn't happen, they stop or slow down.
Yeah. Or she had a graph. Call it like beginner's hell. I might have something. You've seen? You're aware?
No, I want to see that. Like,
okay. It's called beginner's graph, and it actually beginner's hell, and it actually comes from dance. And the idea is like women learn how to dance from an early on age, so their learning process is linear. And here's a curious thing, for those of you guys who still think that body language isn't important. I've had several girls tell me that they've done this when they were kids, when they were watching MTV and stuff like that, and they see all these sexy, beautiful girls. They're like, I want a piece of that. I want to have all these guys throw themselves on me just like her, because she's doing something. So these girls would emulate these beautiful girls, and they would like stand in the doorway, press their arm against it, and learn how to only move their hips. Men walk with their shoulders. We walk with our shoulders, while women walk with their hips, right? And so, you know, but back to your question, like the learning process. As a guy, like I went through that beginner's hell where it's like, you know, here's a girl and here's me, pain, 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 and then I start to get some results and then it plateaus. I start to get some results and it plateaus. And there's the idea that you need to put in 10,000 hours into any one thing to be considered an expert. And I was going out 4 to 6 nights starting in 2004. That's about 4 hours each night. Reading-wise, I might have done like 1 or 2 hours worth of reading, forum posting, but you know, I wasn't like a keyword jockey. I'd read something like, oh, I think that's curious, I might try that out. But first and foremost, like, I was always someone who went out like 4 to 6 nights a week, and I would try anything out. And I had like lucky enough wingmen that were willing to do a lot of crazy stuff with me. But then, you know, at a certain point, you start to learn to calibrate. So over the course of a year, like I said, it took me about 6 months to get my first one night stand.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it more does.
The typical setting, like for the night game, always club or?
What we do is like
a bar too?
Yeah, what we do is like a loungy bar, a lounge on the first night, and the second night is like a club, and then on the third day it's like day game, and that way everybody gets like something different. Now obviously this is kind of dependent upon where we're at, what city we're at, because like, you know, if we go to Vegas, everything's kind of crazy, right? And you know, you have the unique opportunity of doing like casino game, which is a weird beast in and of itself. But again, like part of it is stretching, like your experience. It's called that elastic rubber band effect. You need to stretch. The reason you stretch is that when you relax, instead of being here where you normally are, and instead of being here, you're actually right here. Does that make sense? You know, one of the first things I tell my students is to slow down in the way you talk, in the way you move. And that seems kind of weird. Here's an interesting thing. Speaking fast and higher pitch appeals to the logical mind, while speaking lower and deeper appeals to the unconscious mind. And what happens is that when you concentrate and try to slow down, and you walk into that club and you bring back all that nervous energy, you know, you actually get at that kind of like normal guy level, as opposed to being here that's way too slow, or here that's way too fast. So that's, yeah, kind of a little sidebar there. Yes?
To add to the body language thing, what's the best way to still come off as dominant but not look too stiff?
Not look too stiff. I guess, you know, have you ever taken dance classes?
No.
No. It might be a good thing because you learn how to have kind of like that muscle memory link. You know, again, men dance differently than from women. Like, yeah, we kind of use our shoulders more. And if you're like literally just standing like stock still in like a club, and people like dancing around you, and the music is thumping, and you just go like, kind of what I call it, the try hard poser, like that. You're not really kind of matching the environment. Yes, you want to be kind of like superior to the environment, but in this case, now you're uncalibrated. So you should be able to like, you know, there should be a certain movement to you, a certain sway, like swagger. But if you're like just standing there, like, you know, then you're a statue. And does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Right. So just kind of move around.
You know, just listen to the beat and maybe like consider taking some dance classes. Like, I mean, when I took like hip hop, it took like 20 to 30 bucks depending on the class and where you took it. And the idea is just being aware. It's called body awareness, and understanding like how your body works, how it feels, but also importantly, like how does it look to other people from the outside.
JT, what was the subject of dance floor game? Like, for me personally, like, I can take dance classes, but there's no dance class that kind of teaches you how to grind with a girl. That's what I'm saying? Like, sometimes there are girls who can dance really well. It's really hard to figure out her rhythm.
Yeah.
Like Gangnam Style.
Honestly.
Well, I think dance floor game is a very kind of, is a specialization, first of all. In all my days, I only knew like 1 or 2 guys that are actually like very effective at it. One guy was like a professional hip hop dancer, and he'd go out there and he'd do like that Usher slide, and like women would scream and shit like that, which is amazing. But you know, I only took enough dance to look decent on the dance floor, so I could actually be able to isolate her. So whenever I grinded on a girl, it would be after I opened, and I had a conversation, and I physically escalated, and then I would be like, hey, let's, you know, I love this song, let's go to the dance floor. So take her to the dance floor, and like then I would like dance with her, and then I would like grind. You know, I guess I don't do like a lot of like the grinding that you see at clubs. You know, let me give you a different tactic you could use. It's called my dance floor hand job technique. You guys want to hear that?
Need a volunteer?
Alright. And so in this one, I invented this when I was in like Scandinavia, and there was this couple, it was a brother and sister, and me and the sister were hitting it off, and you know, I know there's sparks and I'm like kissing her, but I don't do it in front of the brother. So I take the brother off to the bar, and you know, I was like, hey, follow me. So I go to the bar, I open a set of like, you know, Danish girls for him, and I throw the Danish girls on him, and he thinks I'm like the coolest American ever, right? So I go back to the sister, and you know, I'm talking and I'm kissing, and it's like, hey, you know, I like this song, I don't know what the fuck it means, it's in Scandinavian, but let's go to the dance floor. Go to the dance floor. So, and here's how I came up with this. First song, dance fast. You know, just kind of like dance fast, with like boom, boom, whatever, Gangnam Style, whatever. And then on the second song, slow her down. Now you're saying like some girls, you know how to dance and they're like, you can't figure out their rhythm. On the second one, solid eye contact. Take her hands, put her on your neck. You just take it, put her on like that. Put your hands on her hips and slow her down. You are essentially doing like prom dance, like a slow dance at prom. Okay? Slow dance, and you're eye gazing. And then you're gonna go for kiss number one. You're gonna see if she kisses you. You're gonna see if you can make out with her. If she doesn't, that means that you still got some work to do. But if you can make out with her, you know, that's great. So you pull back and you continue dancing. Don't continue pushing it. So after the next song, what you're gonna do is you go in for the kiss, you know, kiss number two. You take one arm, one hand from your neck and put it on your chest and push it down, push it down, push it down. You don't go for the groin, just see if she goes past her pockets. Then put it back up, pull back out, get eye gaze, slow dance. Next song, kiss number three. Kiss, make out, take the other hand, put on your chest. Go down, there you go. I remember telling this at one Lair meeting, the SoCal Lair, and this was like before Johnny Wolf was even working for me, and he was still running the SoCal Lair. He's like, he heard the story, he's like, I'm gonna try that out, like that very night. And he went to the Standard, and he was like, he did a variation that like he kissed and made out, and then he sat down with her, and like he took off his jacket and put it over his lap and pushed her hand under his jacket. Yeah, whatever works. It works. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. It's called what do you call the sexual feedback loop. All right. The idea that when you see your partner getting turned on, that makes you turned on. Okay. One of the pieces of advice I always give my guys is, if it feels good to me, I'm doing it wrong because I don't want to feel good physically. You think, I mean, why? Because if I'm turning myself on, I'm not turning her on. If I turn her on, if I make sure I turn her on first, she's going to do her damnedest to turn you on. You ever had that girl? She's always trying to turn, like, what is it you like? You're like, it's great, it's incredible, right? So it always confused me as to why, if like I had a girl give me a hand job, it would turn on so much. Like I've had it happen so many times. We're in bed, we could be in our knickers, in our underwear, and she looks at me and says, you know we're not gonna have sex, right? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm in my boxers, you're in your bra panties, how are we not having sex? So what I started doing is like, you know, I just take her hand and have her give me a hand job, and then like 5 minutes later, boom, she wants to have sex. And that is because there's sort of validation, certain power in the fact that she sees you being turned on. So, again, hopefully that's something that you can put in your tool belt instead of grinding.
That was like step 10 right there.
Yes.
It's kind of a two-part question. There seems, you know, from what I've seen, people who fully embrace something to where they're willing to share that they're involved in it will psychologically put more effort into it. Whereas if there's a sense of shame or concealment, they won't put as much effort in. Now, there is a misogynistic shadow of the PUA community.
Sure.
So, while I don't agree with everyone who adds the PUA to the end of their name and goes extremely absolute, you know, as if it's a persona they need to reinvent, how do you, you know, coach people in simple terms just to, you know, proudly embrace what they're doing instead of having to conceal it from friends or people they care about?
That's a very unique question, and I think ultimately that's a personal question, each individual.
Yeah.
Like I can't have that option because at this point, it's also why I stopped writing the kind of like film reports, personal stuff, because I get Googled and YouTube now by girls. I remember like I'm on a picnic with a girl and we're making out, and she looks up at me and she says, "Oh, by the way, I saw your YouTube videos." And I kind of have this moment like, "And what did you think?" I was like, "It was really cool." I'm like, "Okay." So I don't really have that option anymore of that anonymity. But whether or not you guys should embrace that or not, I think that's a personal thing. It's like if you're adopted, I think I take it that tact. If you're adopted, I think it's your own prerogative whether or not you tell someone, because some of your friends are going to look at you differently and some of them aren't. Okay, I think that's ultimately a personal choice. Yes.
Good question. This is my friend. It's not me, by the way.
Sure.
I have this guy friend. He dates a lot of women. He's not a pickup artist or anything, but he dates all these women, tells them that he loves them, and he's the biggest player that I know. Like, I noticed that some of these girls, they're crying and begging him to stay, and he doesn't care. He actually enjoys that.
Okay.
Where do you think there's a constraint? Like, he loves going after, he specializes almost in going after girls who have boyfriends. He enjoys that. Like, do you think that's like maybe people are going too far? Is there like maybe a constraint that you might cut?
Well, that's what we call a sociopath. Yeah, literally. I mean, that is sociopathic tendencies, where you don't have like the empathy with another person, or you can't feel those emotions. Again, that's kind of like a personal thing. As where the line is, I think one of our models of ABCs is be a fun maker, not a fun taker. Be someone that is willing to give value, regardless of whether or not you give and you get anything in return. It doesn't matter. Do women love the drama? Sure, absolutely. It is kind of like emotional crack. But whether or not you should do it, it's effective. But you have to be able to look at yourself in the morning in the mirror. And I've been assholes to girls, sure. And as much as I say that you should leave them better than you found them, I have been complete dicks to some girls. Not that I wanted to be, but some girls I just never call the next day. And it's something that I'm not proud of saying, but it's not a recurring pattern of mine. But it's a personal choice how much of a douchebag you're willing to be to get girls. Right? How much of a personal cost. Anything else, guys?
In your opinion, what's your opinion on frame control, basically, in terms of interactions, right? I think it's a huge topic, or I would say it's very important when you try to control, basically. I think that controlling the frame generates attraction.
Sure.
I want to know basically what part it plays in your game.
I think that it's part of just being dominant. The idea of just like physical dominance can translate into like emotional, intellectual dominance. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate to say this, I don't want to sound misogynistic, but a lot of pretty girls have incredibly boring lives, and that's part of the reason why girls can be addicted to drama, because their lives are very boring. Okay, they go into work and they work their 9 to 5 or whatnot, and they get hit on by guys, and these guys are incredibly lame, and so when a man comes in with a strong kind of reality or frame, they're attracted to that. And why are girls attracted to guys that have like garage bands and live at home with their mom, even though, he seems like a loser, but the fact is he wants to be, he has this reality of being a famous musician and his music. This is, you hear a lot of times how artistic people have, they get groupies and they get like, a lot of women because, whether they're a painter or they're an author, is because their reality is strong, that it sucks in people with weaker realities. How to do that, I guess if that's your question, I think part of it is you can do it physically and you can do it conversationally. It does require some finesse, because if you're always trying to turn the topic back on yourself, it becomes more conceited, obviously. But I think also just taking control of the conversation and making it move forward to your topic.
Sure. Smoothly, right?
You got about 5 more minutes.
Okay. Last question, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Make it good.
Okay. So let's say if you do your game, but it's not solid, or you don't have enough loot, but you already close it too early, you got a number, but how do you fight, flaking?
How to fight flaking?
If you know that it wasn't a solid game.
Okay, let's say, sure, that happens to all of us. It's like 1:55 and, it's like closing time. And so you had like 5 minutes worth of conversation.
Right.
It's probably going to be flaky. What you do is what we call like the first text, right? The idea that,
I use all the text. This is the most important number that we ever had, blah, blah, blah. Still flaking.
Still flaking. Okay. Well, again, part of it is like, if you have a flake, if it's going to be a flake, then there are tactics that you can do to turn a maybe into a yes, but I think the original premise of the problem is like you're not running a good game in the first place. But like if that's a situation that exists, just use, Gareth was like the best phone game master I've ever met. Using the first text, asking them what their schedule is, upselling an activity with her, and then combining the two. Those are like what he came up with, and pretty solid way of trying to transition it. And then as a measure of last recourse, you can kind of what I call like fire like a nuclear missile. It's like it's basically if it works, it works, but if it doesn't, it's pretty much dead. You can do the casual but funny. Aren't we too old to be playing hard to get? Or to like the kind of medium neutral, I don't understand what I'm not hearing, to the more kind of radical, how did I phrase it? I'm trying to think. I haven't had to use it in a while. It's about being like, do you guys, shoot. I'm trying to think. Like I said, I haven't used it in a while. I was like, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. It's on the Texas X product. Do you have that or? Okay, because there are like three comebacks to a flake.
To be honest, I haven't even finished it yet.
Okay. Alright. Sorry. I have to look it up and get back to you. Okay. We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.